This is Virtualis, the chess noob, learning and having fun with chess. The Vienna Gambit is one of my favourite openings in chess, and when it's accepted, it puts a big smile on my face because I know that I'm going to be in for a good time. Like in this game. Take a look. Okay, so the Vienna Gambit, I had the white pieces, of course, e4, e5, knight c3, knight f6, so Vienna game, Vienna Gambit, f4. And my opponent accepts the Vienna Gambit. Big smile on my face, happy days, and this is basically, Stockfish calls it a inaccuracy. Basically, it's a mistake because now we have e5 attacking the knight. Knight pretty much has nowhere on the board it can really go. Basically, the best move for the knight here is to undevelop back to g8. Very commonly, the black just doesn't want to do that. They will bring out their queen, ostensibly trying to pin the pawn to the king. It doesn't work because symmetrical queen move unpins, and this is still a problem. And then the knight is forced to go back. Now my knight goes forward basically to prevent a potential check. Now you can actually allow that. Now I've made a number of videos that allow this. This is okay. It's a very spicy, tricky line where you end up trapping the opponent's queen, but it's a bit risky. So here, this time I decided not to do that. Knight here, I think it's probably actually potentially one of the best moves, and it removes that complication if you don't want to play down that line. They develop the other knight, that's fine. d4, big center, also opening up the diagonal for the bishop to capture back. Now here, they decided to play a king's gambit-like idea with g5, ostensibly trying to defend the pawn that they won from the gambit. However, in the Vienna Gambit accepted, it just is not a good move. And you can see Stockfish rates this as +6. Really, really problematic, because here I now have a very thematic move in the Vienna Gambit, Vienna game generally, which is knight to d5, attacking the queen, attacking the pawn on c7, which then comes with a fork, effectively forcing the queen to go back to d8. And so on move 8, almost none of their pieces are developed. One knight out, two pawns in a slightly awkward position. I'm getting well developed, control the center. Happy days. The power of the Vienna Gambit accepted. I now decide to capture that pawn with the knight. And my idea here is that, if they decided to capture back with a queen, that is still there. So I thought I was potentially okay here. Stockfish calls this a blunder, however, so they could potentially punish this. And there was also a better move. So the better move here was actually to play the other knight. So knight to f6 with check. Basically, they're forced to capture. Pawn now takes back with a discovered check, and with that configuration, black must block with one of these three pieces. Now, logically, they're not going to block with the queen, and effectively, you end up winning a piece for a pawn. Very good trade, and again, completely winning, dissolving one of their only developed pieces. Very, very good. Now, I didn't see that in this game, so as I said, I played that move, so they can't take back because this potentially is hanging. Now, they push a pawn instead, so they don't find the necessary response, and now I get to take that pawn, which was my idea because, that is coming next. Stockfish calls it a brilliant move, a brilliant sacrifice, smashes open the kingside defense. King is forced to come out, so no longer can castle. Queen infiltrates. The knight controls these squares. The pawn controls these squares. So potentially very, very good. Here, however, I couldn't quite see how I can convert. So I didn't do the full calculation. I thought it was probably going to be okay. And then I was like, oh, gee, what am I going to do here? So I thought, look, let's just bring another piece into the picture. I think here, potentially just taking that pawn would have been best. My opponent brings out their queen, and here I was stuck for a while. So over the board, so I played on my chestnut air. I just couldn't see a way out of this position. And so I just ended up eventually, after 1.5 minutes or so, as you can see, just trading queens. And that was a mistake. That was a blunder. Goes all the way to -2 because black and white are almost equal. And, they are basically up a little bit of material. Now, the best move here, can you see what it is? It is knight takes that pawn, defending the queen. That knight is defended by the bishop, and then the knight has another sneaky move next turn, which will be a discovered, which will be sort of a fork of the king and queen. Queen also has a discovered attack to the bishop. Also has a discovered on her queen. Super powerful move. Basically, the queen is lost. I didn't see it. I opted to instead just trade queens. That was a mistake because now black is actually kind of okay. However, it's still easier to play as white. So let's consider, my pieces are in a more natural looking position. These have not developed. Kings oddly placed here. So I still have potentially the better position. So here I decide to just put the pawn here to 2 squares away from that knight just to limit its mobility. Stockfish didn't like it that much. I thought that was a good move. They push a pawn, opening up the diagonal. Yeah, so here I decide to now jump and take, threaten that rook. Rook's forced to move, but now I get to capture with that pawn. So I thought that was pretty clever because I thought, look, they're probably going to capture back with that bishop, and then it's a trap. It's a trap. They didn't see it. It was a blunder. So now back to +5.5. Check, capture. Basically a piece up. Most important thing now is just not to stuff up. Potentially try to force some piece trades. They bring out their bishop. Of course, that potentially prevents casting on that side. So that's a little bit annoying. I decide to sort of just bring the bishop out. So yes, come on, let's trade. So I'm happy to do that. They sort of don't want to trade pieces, of course, or force trade pieces, so move their knight out of the way. I thought here, do I sort of take right away? Not too sure. Here, I decide to just bump that bishop first. They move back, and now I decide to capture. Of course, rook can't capture back without being taken back. Next move, here, there's another threat on one of their pieces. I think I just caused some emotional damage on my opponent, and here they opted to resign on move 21. Good game, GG. My big takeaway from this game is to learn to play the Vienna game and the Vienna Gambit. I hope you enjoyed this video, and thanks for watching.